we did listen to each other. And when I first went there, I said, okay, my job is to listen. I want to hear what you have to say. And it turns out that we did agree on quite a bit. And I try to, the Libertarian Party has done some educating in the past. So I'm glad we've moved to more of a political party now that we have educational groups out there. But I told them, I said, for instance, of course, we all know the story of Rosa Parks, the heroic black woman who refused to sit on the back of the bus. And I asked him, did you realize that was a government-run, government-owned bus? And he said, no, I didn't. And I said, well, and at the time, something like 60% of the ridership were blacks. Now imagine in a free market, like bring that to today with Uber. What if Uber did that against the best 60% of its business? It would go out of business. It'd go bankrupt as well it should. And he said, that's a good point. And so, I'm showing him how, smaller government can be the answer, and the free market will take much better care of you than government ever could. And he is a black preacher who had been in prison, and I told him how, yes, libertarians believe that your rights should be restored once you serve your time. And so it turns out that we agreed with each other more than you would think. So, but you're absolutely right. The Marxists, I'm not sure they want to really hear another point of view of how their way just doesn't work. It's never worked in history.
No, it's never worked in history. And your government, the government is the problem. It's not the solution. It's not just change the seats or change people. How many times have we had elections and we thought, okay, we got a bunch of people in here who are going to change things, and they don't. They just don't. You have to understand that big government corrupts almost everybody, almost every time. So let me go to that.
In fact, can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
One of my favorite books of all time is Animal Farm. And I wish that everybody in grade school, if you're going to send your kids to school for something, they should be reading Animal Farm, because yes, it does corrupt. And some of the interviewers, when I've been on the campaign trail, have asked me, so I guess you must have been student body president, or you ran for student council or something? And like the hairs on my back bristle. And it's like, oh my gosh, no. When I was in high school and college, I hated the idea that there were an elite few making rules for the rest of us. It just seemed so wrong. And it wasn't until after I got out of school, I was just finishing up school, and I heard about the Libertarian Party. And I said, oh, wow, this is the way it needs to be. Individuals, we need to be making our own decisions and not having other people make decisions for us. So no, I was never interested in politics, never crossed my mind to be a politician. I view voting Libertarian as an act of self-defense.
So why, I truly believe everybody is a Libertarian in their own life, and then they start, muddying it up with politics, and I don't really know. And it's like, stop. Why hasn't the Libertarian Party just rocketed at this time?
Well, because they're the ones in power, and people in power don't want to give it up. The debate commission has said I cannot be in the debates unless I get to 15%.
No. I understand that. I understand the three-party system, the two-party system, and I understand all those. But why hasn't there been a grassroots swell of freedom when so many people? I mean, I live in Texas. People are preparing for a civil war. And I think that's happening all around the country. And it's frightening. Civil wars don't always end the way you want them to end. And a lot of pain and destruction goes along with it. But not only that, I think they're doing that because they don't see a peaceful way to stop the problems that are dividing us. And the problems that are dividing us are the problems that honestly come from not obeying the Constitution. So why isn't that message from the Libertarians? Why isn't there just a big grassroots movement for freedom? It's almost like freedom's unpopular.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's hard to reach people when the media don't cover you, and they don't cover you seriously, as you know. And I did watch your big tech special, and yes, it's hard to get the message out even through social media. I completely agree with you. Now, we have been getting somewhere in that even from the beginning of our campaign, about 75% of our volunteers are from outside the party. And so the people we are able to reach, they say, wow, I didn't even know there was a choice. In fact, I went to a doctor recently, and out of state. I don't know if you heard my whole bat incident, but anyway,
I did. I want to talk to you about that, but I wanted to talk about serious things first.
Yeah, but he said, I didn't even know there was anybody else to choose. I didn't even know that there was anybody besides Trump and Biden to vote for. So even intelligent people, the average person, Glenn, isn't like you and me, or even like many of your viewers. We view politics as maybe, like our Sunday football. It's our hobby. We watch it. But the average person just kind of ignores it until, maybe the debates come around.
Right.
And I'm sure you've seen many of these, the man on the street where they can't even identify the VP's picture.
Yeah.
Most people, politics just isn't at the top of their list. They've got their careers, their jobs, their kids, and they're not paying attention. And so how do you get in front of them if you're not part of the big news cycle? That's difficult to do. However, I can tell you that the states that I visited, I have gone up in the polls. So if we can just reach people, and I'd like to quote Ed Clark from 1980 when he was the presidential candidate, and the media asked him, now you don't really think you can win, do you? And his answer was, you know what? If I could sit down at the kitchen table of every American family in this country, I would win by a landslide if I could explain to them what libertarianism is. But it's how do you get the message to them when the media and even social media is, holding you back?
I know some really prominent libertarians who get very, very frustrated with the Libertarian Party because it's almost like you want to have a philosophical debate more than win an election. And that's very frustrating because you do want to be pure on the principles, but America to go pure on libertarian principles at this point is a revolution in and of itself. And if there is a revolution, I hope it's surrounded by, in the end, I hope it's surrounded by libertarians who will go back to the founding principles. But the libertarians have been so strident on absolutism in a world shaped by progressivism that it seems as though they in the past have been willing to gain ground because it's not pure also over here. You can't legalize drugs in a country that says, I've got to care for people at all stages of their life, no matter what choice they make. You have to teach them a different principle before you can get to legalizing all drugs, because it only works when the society will see somebody who is on the street, strung out in heroin, and stop them and say, can I help you? Can I bring you to my church or to this clinic over here? Can I help you? And if they say, no, man, give me more money, I just want to do drugs. No, but that's your choice, and I will step over you to get into my office. That seems heartless, but that is the right thing to do for that individual, unfortunately, and it's the right thing for society. But that's 100 years away from here.
Well, I'm not going to go into that particular situation, but I couldn't agree with you more on, the Libertarian Party and our focus. And I think that that's one of the reasons that in fact, I know that's one of the reasons I got the nomination, because I was endorsed by the Pragmatic Caucus, and yet I also received one of the highest ratings by the Radical Caucus. So because my message has been practical, because I have been going out and talking about healthcare and talking about what people are interested in. I have have not yet said, well, except in this kind of situation, I've not yet once gone out and said anything about, oh, we need self-ownership or, oh, government dystopia. I'm going out and talking about, hey, let's have healthcare that's affordable. Hey, let's bring the troops home. Let's do what's important for you. So I've been talking to the voter about what's important to the voter, and we need to present it in that way. And yes, for instance, for Social Security, we can't just yank the rug out underneath grandma and tell her, I hope you have grandkids who can support you. We have to have a plan. Grandma's money was taken from her by the government before she even got her paycheck. We can't just say, sorry, you're on your own. We have to make good with that, and I would be in favor of, for instance, selling government assets, maybe some of these forests that the federal government does not know how to take care of, sell them to people who do know how to take care of them, and then give the money to grandma and let her have a safe, secure retirement. So absolutely, we can't just overnight, even with healthcare, if we were to say, okay, free market tomorrow, you're on your own. The government has inflated the healthcare prices so much that people couldn't afford them. So we have to take baby steps. Now, we have to take quick baby steps, though, much quicker than the Democrats and Republicans are willing to do. But we still have to have a couple steps between here and the free market.
We're in agreement. And when I said 100 years away from that, I didn't mean 100 years in the future. I mean, we're 100 years ago is when we were talking about things like that, where we had a society that understood personal responsibility. So you can't go 100 years of training one way and then just turn it off, But everybody reasonable knows I'm not going to get Social Security. I mean, I'm in my 50s. I'm not planning on Social Security. And those who do, and they're my age, you're in trouble. But everybody under my age, they know.
Right.
I don't have a chance of Social Security because it's a bogus scheme. I want to talk to you about two other things. First of all, I am stuck in this place where I think big tech is one of man's greatest accomplishments. It is phenomenal what we can do and what's on the horizon. I am a part-time futurist that really studies tech and its future. And everything is within our grasp in the next 10 years. All the complex answers of almost anything is just going to start just going down a pipeline that no one will be able to. It is drinking water from a fire hose. With that being said, the dystopian world of tomorrow that you've always seen in the movies where there is no government, there's a giant corporation, I've never believed that could possibly happen. And I don't think our founders saw that as happening either, that a company could be more powerful than a nation. Well, they are. So how do we not control it? How do we get all of the dangerous parts out of these companies that don't have to answer to the Constitution without destroying it?
Well, if you're looking for government to do it, they're certainly not going to. I look back to IBM. I worked for IBM in the early 80s. When the Justice Department finally dropped the lawsuit. There was an antitrust lawsuit. And supposedly the paperwork generated back then could have gone to the moon and back. And I remember talking with a socialist at the time who, ironically, her dad founded one of big tech companies, which I'm sure you would have heard of back then. And she was saying, oh, isn't this great? The government's going to divide IBM up into 7 different companies, and each company would be the size of boroughs. Isn't that great? And now, of course, your average viewer out there, Glenn, is going, what's a boroughs? Right. But it's like, so the Justice Department in 12 years could not get IBM down to size. And by the way, we were told that only the government could do it because they had this they had capitalization. They had manufacturing plants that nobody could compete with IBM because they didn't have all the buildings and machinery. And yet, who took down IBM? 2 guys in their garage. It was still the free market. It was still Apple that took down IBM. So I'm hoping somebody takes down
But what we
Well, I
have
just
now is two parties that, for some reason, I mean, the problem is not capitalism or the free market. It is corrupt capitalism. It's crony capitalism. And they have more money to influence Washington and to just, you're reelected, Senator. Don't worry. You don't have to raise a dime. Here's the money you need. And it's a revolving door between Congress and these big tech companies. We got to sever that. So I don't want more regulation. That's a nightmare, and it will be written in their favor. How do we sever that tie between Washington and business?
Well, again, government's not going to do it. It's up to the individual, and it's up to us to do something. And that's why I'm so glad that you put out your big tech special. It's individuals like you and Americans who are working to do this, because we can't look to government to fix the problem. They're the ones who are giving the power to the corporations to do this.
Deep state. If you didn't believe in the deep state in 2016, I can understand. If you don't see that there is a state that runs no matter who's president, you either have been watching cartoons or you're a moron. Tell me how dangerous the deep state is, or how do we... First of all, do you believe in the deep state? I shouldn't have said you were an idiot if you didn't believe it and then ask you this. But I assume you believe in the deep state, this never-ending state that just grinds on.
Yes, well, no, I'm not going to call myself an idiot on your show, but no, of course there is, and I believed it before 2016, that there are professional people in Washington running this country. And you know what? I do believe that Donald Trump had the best of intentions when he said he wanted to bring the troops home. And I don't think he realized how big the military-industrial complex is, and that basically now, he could have gotten rid of them. He could have done something, but it is so entrenched in Washington. Right. It's hard to do anything. So
how do you break that up? I mean, the one thing I hated about Donald Trump was that he was just a World Wrestling Federation show. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, please. But and maybe not even intentionally, but the man, because of that, he just knocks walls down, like, whoops, I knocked that down. And then you see it for the first time. You're like, oh, crap, why are all those people hiding back there? How do you stop it without being somebody who is just a wrecking ball? I think you have to be a wrecking ball. That's the only way you can fix Washington, because it is so overgrown. And like I said, it's just scary to me to look back at when I was running in 1996, how we thought government was so big, and we got, everybody was like, oh, government's too big. How are we ever going to I mean, who would have ever thought we would be here now? It's going to take nothing short of a wrecking ball. All right. So I do want to ask you personally about the bats. Okay. You were bitten by one bat. I have bats that live at my house in Idaho, and they are under the eave of my front door, and it's like a Dracula movie every time that I walk out. I don't know what to do with them, but I've never been bitten by one. First of all, are you taking rabies medication? I did. Okay. Now, maybe it's a good thing I'm on your show, because let me first mention I was not bitten. It looked like I was actually scratched on my chin, but I had seen on a TV show, on a news magazine show, that you don't actually have to be bitten by a bat in order to get rabies. It's the only animal that you can get rabies from without a bite. And they told me in the ER, they said even if they find a bat in somebody's home, they just give everybody the vaccines, because first of all, the bat bite is so small you wouldn't know it, and just because you can get rabies just from coming in contact with them. Wow. There had been a bat loose in some stadium, and they were making the announcement, hey, if you were here and you got touched by a bat,
seek medical attention because you don't actually have to be bitten. So, yeah, I had gotten up at the crack of dawn, hit the campaign trail, opened up the back door to see if my cat was out there because I wanted to say goodbye to her because I was going to be gone for 2 weeks. And so I wasn't paying attention. Next thing I know, there's a bat in my face. And but I did get, of course, I am running for president. That comes first. So I still got on the plane, but when we hit Pittsburgh, the first thing I did was we went to the hospital instead of the campaign bus, so I could start. Yeah, it's 2 weeks of shots. You go 4 different times for shots,
and it's in your stomach or something. And I've heard they're really painful.
Well, I had heard they were in your stomach, but the good news is they're no longer in your stomach. Now, yes, they are painful, but they're in your arms. And I got 5 shots the first time, including, because they also had to do it with my chin. But so you may want to do something about those bats because you can get rabies even without a bite.
We're trying. We build little bat houses and stuff, and it's like. Guys, go fly over there. Why are you here? We've tried everything. We just can't move them. I don't know. Maybe we need to get a bat expert. One more thing. I just want to make sure, because of the bats, what happened to the mirror? What happened to it? Somebody take it. I wanted to make sure I had a mirror here. I wanted to make sure you weren't a vampire. But if you weren't bit, you're certainly not.
Well, my husband said I guess they don't realize you're already a vampire because you're such a night owl that you're up all night and you sleep all day. So maybe it's a good idea to get the mirror out.
She's there. Can you see it? She is there. So we know she's not a vampire. Thank you so much for being on. Best of luck. And I hope that whatever happens, the Libertarians play a much bigger role in what's coming, and we can come to agree that the Constitution of the United States just needs to be restored. It just needs to be restored, and we have to start living by it again. And that means a lot of work in Washington needs to go away.
Yes. Glenn, I share with you your love of the Constitution, and it was a true honor to be on your show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That is, I thought, a refreshing conversation with Dr. Jo Jersensen. She is a Libertarian Party presidential nominee. If you find yourself and you just are like, I can't vote for her, may I recommend... I hope, I'm not going to be voting for, I know who I'm going to vote for, and I'm going to be voting for Donald Trump. And those are words I never thought I would say, but I think we are in real trouble. But I really sincerely hope that the Libertarians play a bigger role in our country than they have been. I don't know why freedom it doesn't seem like needs PR. I don't know why, but the way to freedom is not through one of the 2 parties. It's through the Constitution, and the closest to a constitutional party I can find are the Libertarians. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good weekend. Good night.